Welcome, everyone, to yet another retrospective review from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. I am Jackson, joined as always by Paul, and we have a special guest for Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Ryan from the Fake Nerd podcast. So we're going to talk about Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but let's do our intros, and Ryan, you can start since you're the guest of honor.
Sure. Hey, like I said, I'm Ryan from the Fake Nerd Podcast. We're a weekly pop culture, movie, comic, video game talk show. We go for very long. We like to talk about a whole bunch of things. Check us out live on Sundays. Thanks for having me on. I haven't watched this movie in a long time, and rewatching it again as an adult with so much more views into Hollywood and the meta narrative of Hollywood. I'm like, wow, this is such an interesting movie, man.
It really is. And Paul, as always, you can tell people where they can find you.
Yep, you can find me on Instagram at Paul's Problem CBSI. Just kind of post whatever, try and make you laugh, as well as details from the Flipside YouTube channel on Monday nights when I can make it. If not, check the channel out and see what catches your eye.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think it only makes sense to kind of talk about where the series A Nightmare on Elm Street was at the point that this came out. So Paul and I have gone through the first 6 movies. So, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, and then the last one being Freddy's Dead was when they decided that they had pretty much run this thing into the ground. Part 5 didn't make any money. So they said, okay, we're just going to kill him off. Wes Craven's New Nightmare was Wes Craven's return to the director's chair for a Freddy Krueger movie. So they probably thought it was going to be a big blockbuster box office success. It really wasn't, but the movie is strange because it is not Nightmare on Elm Street Part 7. It is a film about select people who were involved in the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And basically, this is before the invention of the modern day reboot, I would say. Wes Craven has decided to reboot the Freddy Krueger series and is writing a movie, and he's a character in this film, and the movie he's writing in the movie is the movie that you're watching. So really interesting. Now, Ryan, I want to pitch it to you because when you heard we were doing the Freddy movies, you immediately were like, okay, well, when you do Wes Craven's New Nightmare, let me know. So are you a fan of this movie? Was it still good years later watching it?
So growing up, I had parents who loved horror, so I watched all the horror movies, and every horror franchise, if they go on long enough, they all kind of turn into jokes, maybe except Michael Myers. Maybe he's the only one he's had bad movies, but he never got turned into a joke. He's not cracking wise or anything, but I remember this movie just being different from the other ones, and even from a young age, I liked really weird shit. We're all on the talk show, the Downright Annoyed show. I like weird movies, so like this one, man. If this movie would have came out today, I think it would have been a smash hit, man. Like, man, this movie's so like gonzo weird. Like the script that they're reading in the movie is the script that the movie. It's Wes Craven's script for the movie that's in the movie. It's so weird. So going back and rewatching it, I don't think it's particularly scary like the other movies are, but I find it so inventive and weird and interesting to the mythos of making Freddy this it-like creation. I think it's more fascinating and cool than it is scary. But I'm really glad it exists because it's such you see Scream all over this movie.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
Like,
totally.
the next movie I'm making is going to be the super meta horror movie. I think it holds up.
I don't think a lot of these horror directors like John Carpenter, Wes Craven. I mean, Wes Craven did end up making a lot of crap kind of in the later years, but this is like ahead of its time. Like nowadays, if something like this came out, it would be strange, but it would be like, oh, it's another one of those meta things. But like it was pre-Scream. I mean, Scream was his big meta masterpiece, so to speak, but this is before it, and I think it's even a little bit more bonkers the way that they work in the story. But Paul, now your memory of this apparently was that you did not like it. You watched it again.
It's true. I did not like it because I didn't know the mythos of of Freddy. And so my wife's like, I want to show you this movie. I love it. It's really great. And I'm like, this is terrible. What the heck is this? So I can understand why it may have flopped in the box office. If you brought someone to it, you'd have to explain it to them or have them watch all the other movies, which is what Jackson and I did. And so now it makes a lot more sense. And the only thing I hate about the movie is the kid.
Oh boy,
I like the
I
kid.
forgot.
I like the kid. I don't
know why. I don't know why. It's just
I do see why it failed at the time it came out, because I think now it would be a little different. I think our expectations would be a little more set up for what it was going to be. But even Freddy Krueger fans going to see this, I mean, he doesn't really show up until like an hour into the movie.
Very little Freddy.
Yes,
right.
Very little Freddy. It's way more of I think it was made way more for the hardcore fans of A Nightmare on Elm Street, who are going to be excited to see Heather Langenkamp and John Saxon as the dad, which, by the way, that whole bit at the end when John Saxon turns into her dad, it's just it's fucking awesome. But
it's so good. I wish I would have saw it in a theater. Like this is definitely, again, like, man, if this movie would have came out today, I think it would have done gangbusters. Cause like, this is the type of movie where you get the director back, you get the original cast back. This is a Force Awakens before the Force Awakens happens, right? Like I'm shocked that it didn't do well and people weren't super hot on it. But again, like, I think it was ahead of its time. And a lot of those movies, when they come out, they're not appreciated when they arrive.
Yeah, I always liked it. I mean, I don't remember a time when I didn't like this one, although I was like obsessed with Freddy Krueger as a kid. It's funny how brilliant that whole bit is too. I mean, just going through the movie, when they decide to pitch it to Heather Langenkamp, like, hey, we're coming back. And she's like, I don't know, I've got kids, whatever. And the guy's like, kids love horror, Heather. And it's like, you guys did create this monster of a character who is a pedophile, I mean, basically, and kids loved Freddy Krueger. Like, there were Freddy Krueger action figures and dolls, and it's just like these things these guys create that just become so much bigger than the sum of its parts, and it's odd, it's intriguing. I do think it's funny. I'm pretty sure that she doesn't really have a kid, or she didn't at the time this came out. A lot of that was kind of fabricated. I do think maybe she married someone in the industry, but yeah, I love Robert Englund being in it as himself, and the whole bit where he shows up and it's like he's the Iron Man of this series. He's the superhero. It's like nobody gives a shit about anybody but Freddy. And she goes on this talk show and he shows up in his makeup and everybody cheers, and it's like nobody cares about her. That whole bit's great. But yeah, I really, really like this.
Robert Englund, to me, I don't know how he is in real life, but like, in this movie, he seems like the coolest, suavest guy. He's always wearing like these cool, like John Lennon glasses, and he's like a painter. And I'm like, I wonder if Robert Englund is really this cool in real life, because it feels like that's like a Hollywood.
What do you guys think about him doing that painting? Like the entity that is Freddy, like, was starting to grow and influence these people in the real world of the movie. Like, Robert just seemed. He didn't care about her on the phone call. Really, he's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I got something to finish. As he's painting this insane.
He's kind of a selfish prick. Like,
well, was it that, or were they all having nightmares?
Yeah.
I think everyone associated with the movie is having nightmares, and it's being haunted in some way or another. Right. Robert, maybe because he is Freddy Krueger himself, maybe he isn't as like scared of it. Maybe he's more like accepting of it. So maybe that's why he's like, I'm painting, and he's like, whatever, Heather, spooky shit, whatever.
Well, then he runs though. He like disappears.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. I think he is scared. I mean, yeah, I guess to set up the plot ends up being that there is this entity throughout time, and the only way to like once in a while, some creation comes along and it gets trapped in that creation. And in this case, they killed Freddy off, but the entity likes being Freddy. He like enjoys being Freddy Krueger. So he decides, okay, I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna continue to be Freddy, my own twisted version of him, and come out into the real world. I think that's really clever too.
It is such an insane concept that this like primordial, like ancient evil decided that he liked the manifestation of this fictional character so much that he decided he wanted to make that fictional character a reality in real life. He was killed in a movie. This entity was brought into a movie, and then he's created into real life in this movie. That is such a bonkers concept. I'm like, just on that alone, I'm like, this movie's wild. Like, this is like it, but he's a movie star.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think his redesign is excellent. This is honestly my favorite Freddy. I wish I want more demonic Freddy. I like him a lot. His like weird, scary face design.
Yeah.
The claw's cool, but like I think his face is wild.
So in this movie, one of the big things, and apparently Wes Craven kind of went through the rest of his life, like going back and forth on this decision of turning him into this weird, it's not really burns. It's like pieces
like
of flesh are missing. Yeah, it's like a demon, right? Now, Robert Englund still does play Freddy in the makeup, even though in the credits it says Freddy Krueger as himself. I don't know if anyone got that. But
a lot of that. I loved it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a cool look. I mean, it is tough though. It's like, how cool would it have been if it was just like Nightmare 3 Freddy too, though? You know, like it's a weird. It's almost like I wish some deep fake genius would like go create, take Wes Craven's New Nightmare and try it. Although I guess it wouldn't work with what they set up, because they do talk about how it's not Freddy, it's scarier, it's darker, whatever. But and by the way, Ryan, I mentioned it on a previous episode. Me and my wife went to a horror convention down in Chicago where Robert Englund was, and he did like a Q&A thing. We had like front row. The guy could have held that audience's attention for 5 hours. Like, he's just a cool ass seaman dude, man. Like,
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. And yeah, he all the interviews I've ever seen, he seems like a rad dude. He like loves being in horror stuff.
Right.
And he is an icon.
Yeah, no, totally. It's the 80s slasher characters are almost like now not modern anymore. I guess it's been 40 years, but they're the most modern version of like the Universal monsters that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like Robert Englund, and especially Robert Englund, I mean, he's the one who actually gets to give a legitimate performance across all of the movies. I mean, he's, people probably think this is stupid, but he's like the Boris Karloff of our time, I would say. He's just one of those guys that, the guy has just an insane amount of charisma. He's awesome as the character. It is great just to see him in this as Robert Englund too, you know.
You get to see all the different Freddys, because like again, like he did kind of turn into like the jokey, like it's prime time bitch, which I still think is hilarious. But like he became kind of jokey, so it is nice that like he got to be on that TV show with Heather and get to be like, hey, I'm Freddy Krueger. Then also get to be like this guy, like this super scary demonic figure. So like he got to return to the roots of like, yo, I'm a horror icon. I don't get to just make jokes and stuff. I thought it was the times he was scary Freddy, I think worked for the most part.
Sure, I would agree. Paul, any other random thoughts coming out of nowhere?
Well, we were talking, you and I, just that his makeup as Ryan walks away. Darn it, they were saying that his makeup just looked a little dry in this one. But I do agree. I'm sure Wes Craven had to think of a way for him to be Freddy. I don't know if you heard me, Ryan, when you walked.
Yeah, dry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm sure Wes Craven had to think of a way for this entity to embody Freddy without he wanted to step away from maybe the classical look. That was the only, I noticed that. But other than that, I thought, honest to God, I thought it was brilliant because it cleans up so much of the shit of the series, and it ties it all together and wraps it up in such a nice package that you get it. I didn't get it the first time because I didn't know the history, but now that I've seen the films, I'm like, that is really freaking brilliant. Like, just
it's a great love letter to Nightmare fans, and maybe we're lucky it wasn't a big hit, because had they have made a sequel to this,
right.
It could have, the same thing could have happened. I do like that they acknowledge that they kind of acknowledge that it went to shit, right? And I think that's important. But But yeah, it's the only slasher movie like this. I don't know if we'll ever get another one like this. I mean,
do you count? Well, no, because I was gonna say Cabin in the Woods, but that's still like in like its own world. It's not breaking the fourth wall.
Right.
yeah, no, and Cabin in the Woods is a good example where it's like if people were blown away by that, I mean, you know, Wes Craven did it. I maybe this isn't first. Maybe he didn't do this first. Somebody had probably done something like this, but at the time, I mean, 94, like we're used to this kind of weird meta shit now. You know, fourth wall breaking meta stuff, and not like now it's you wouldn't be shocked to see something like this, but at its time, yeah, it's brilliant, and he deserves a ton of credit.
2 years after the last one was this, like, but when they took the break.
Honestly, I think it was probably like 2 or 3 years. I can look it up.
That's not that much time, actually. That I thought it would have been longer. You know, most like dead franchises, they take like an extended period before they do the reboot thing.
So 3 years, it looks like.
That's a quick turnaround. All right, cool.
Now, New Line, though, at the time, I mean, New Line Cinema prior to Lord of the Rings, this was their cash cow. You know, so they killed Freddy off. I don't know what came out with a New Line banner between this and that. I mean, this is pre-Mortal Kombat. That was New Line. That was a hit.
That was 95, I think.
Yeah, but New Line wasn't like a huge studio. You know, they were like an independent studio. Robert Shea got, you know, lucky with Freddy. It blew up into a big enough series for him to make a ton of money. He insists on being in half the fucking movies. He's in a ton of these goddamn movies, including this one. Yeah, and that's cool too. Like he's in it. I forget the woman's name, who goes and like gets her in the lobby. That's an actual producer from New Line. Like at the funeral, Rod from the first movie is at the husband's funeral. There's a couple other people that are there. They couldn't get Johnny Depp though. Unfortunately, they blew their wad on Freddy's dead.
Yeah.
He was Edward Scissorhandsing it.
Yeah, they got a picture of him. That's probably all they could afford.
Yeah. So, I love this movie. It's sad. I guess we did get Robert Englund one more time after this. We did get him one more time. Yeah, we did get him one more time after this. But yeah, this is it's bittersweet to watch this. Now, I guess since we're through the original 7 prior to Freddy versus Jason and the remake, what would you do for a reboot for Nightmare on Elm Street, or do you think you just don't do it?
Oh man, I was just talking about this with my roommate because I watched it with him, Sparks, on the Fake Nerd podcast, and we were talking about you can't, especially because they already did a reboot where they kind of did the same thing with a little bit change, but they mostly did the same story where, you know, he's a bad boy, murder pedophile man. Oh, my cat's going crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, they go a little bit more hardcore on the pedophile angle in the remake.
Yeah. So we were thinking, I don't know if you guys saw the newest Child's Play reboot. Where they made it technological. I thought that movie was pretty okay. I think it's worth a watch if you like that franchise. I think it's pretty okay. But I wouldn't take Freddy in a technological route, but I would take him in the same exact vein of this movie by making him like a meta thing where people need to believe in his nightmare for it to work. So like the franchise has been dead and they want to make a new movie, so Freddy starts appearing again in the real world.
So your reboot in the reboot, it would be a world where the Freddy movies existed.
Yes, it would be it would essentially be a sequel to New Nightmare. Essentially, what it would be.
Okay.
And like the reboot didn't happen, and there'd be a 25-year break. And I'm just thinking, I want to Force Awakens every franchise alive, right? Because I just love bringing old things back with the old cast. You bring Heather back, and you bring all these people back, and like unfortunately, like Wes is gone, and like some of the actors are gone. Sure. But like how is Freddy gone? Like we ended the franchise on purpose. We wanted to make a bad movie so no one would remember him, like that kind of shit. But yeah. I don't think it would happen.
Paul, you got any ideas for bringing Freddy back?
I like the mythos. I mean, if you could go like, I don't know, maybe a man, I don't know, because it'd pull into the Freddy thing. Maybe off the top of my head, like a archaeological dig, find some sort of weird old style glove.
Okay.
And so it ties into that mythos of the character, like the entity. So that's why he was so attracted to the Freddy series, is because they decided to use a same style murder weapon. And so it'd be in the same world where the Freddy movies existed, but you were able to start fresh because it's just, big picture entity murder with a glove.
Would that be like almost like a super prequel where it's like, like 1900s or something? Like, and it's like an archaeological
idea. You could, yeah.
Like an Egyptian monster or something? Because I'm into that.
Or he was Jack the Ripper.
Sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, honestly, something like that would be good. It's tough. It's tough because this is a character that is Robert Englund. That's the problem they're going to have, is they have to come up with something clever. Now, Robert Englund actually had an idea where Freddy, like, he could be in the movie for like a small portion, but basically that every person would dream Freddy as this different thing, almost like It, where it's like, maybe that's a way you do it. And what really excited me is apparently, what's his name? Frodo. What's the actor's name? God damn it. Elijah Wood. I don't know if you've seen any of his company's horror movies that have come out in the last 5 years, but they're all awesome. And apparently he has been trying to get the rights to do a Freddy movie. So whatever those guys have in mind, they're kicking ass, and it's awesome that Elijah Wood is like obsessed with horror. Like,
oh yeah, he's not only making movies, like Mandy and Psycho Gorman, he's also like producing horror video games. Like, that dude is like, he's like the best super nerd ever. He's like throwing his money at all these cool little indie things all over the place.
Dude, he's awesome. He's awesome. Come to Daddy was great. That was like one where he was in it. His production company made it. He was in it. That's a great movie. But yeah, man, there in this movie too, like back to this movie, there's so many iconic moments in this. I mean, he does the first one, Kill Again, where he drags the girl across the ceiling, and there's that whole bit.
The babysitter.
Him coming out of the bed again, which you have behind you right there, is fucking great. The closet miss me line is great. And that's just brilliant too, because he's talking to the audience,
I do think, and I think it might be intentional, but there are a couple times when it seems like the music is extremely, extremely heightened when things aren't as dramatic. But I think that might just be the movie trying to be. I think that might be like that Scream meta thing that he's slowly working towards, where it's like it's almost comedic how dramatic this is. Because like I don't remember the specific scene, but it's like something happens and she gives a reaction and it's like the most dramatic music. I'm like, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be? I think this is on purpose. Because Wes Craven is a real smart guy. So I wouldn't put it past it. But it might just be 1990s editing. Who knows?
I should have done more research on this movie before we hopped on, because I would be very interested in exactly how this movie came to be. Did New Line come to him and say, "Please write us a script for another Freddy movie. We'll give you full control. You can direct it, pick the actors, whatever." Or did Wes Craven like actually have the idea pop into his head? I mean, they're going to take a meeting with him. Basically built that company, so like how much of the movie is fiction, like, because in the movie he's like having bad dreams and like he doesn't realize that they're all coming true as he's writing until halfway through the movie we get to meet him. And I love the scene with him too, how he's just this like rich guy who is like this mysterious weird dude.
He's like the most mysterious, like he's got the most beautiful house that overlooks like a pool with no rails, like overlooking the valley. He's like, being a writer is hard. You might as well be smoking a cigarette. I have these dreams, Heather. You're in the dreams. It's so much, but like I think it's really good. Like it works for me.
He actually doesn't give that horrible of a performance either. Like it's a little hammy, I guess, but I mean he's fine.
He strikes me like in the movie, like he is a like brilliant writer who is having these dreams of like this demon he kind of helped create, and him just dealing with that. And he's like, gotta finish it. What else am I gonna do? Like, that's the burden I created. And I'm like, man, like this is like, it's just layered enough from like, this is, I want more of this. Like, again, like the whole meta narrative of it is so interesting. I want to revisit this, but like, that's just the weird nerd in me.
Yeah. So I guess we're pretty close to wrapping up here. Paul, grade. Where do you rank it amongst the franchise since you've just watched the original 7?
Yeah, I would have definitely given it a lower grade if I had not seen the other movies, because I just didn't. For me, how my brain works, I just didn't get it. So I can see how people would give it lower grades if they didn't know the lore. But given that I do, I mean, it's up there. I think it's great. I don't know, maybe in second or third place amongst all of them.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Ryan, I don't know how often you've watched all the Freddy movies, but I mean,
I've definitely
got a
watched
couple that you like.
Yeah, I've watched 1 and 3 most recently because I remember those are the ones that are the good ones. 2, 4, and the rest. It's been some time. But I still think three's the best. You can't get over Dream Warriors. Frank Darabont wrote that movie. That movie rules for a reason. This is probably second. I think that first one is it's good and it's a classic, but it doesn't, just because it's the first doesn't mean it has to be the best.
Yeah, I think it's in the top. It's in the top 3, certainly.
I would give this like a B plus. I think this movie is real good.
Yeah, this one is I think there's only 3 that are okay, even if you're not a Freddy fan, although I guess Paul kind of breaks that, but that you can't. They're objectively good films, right? I would say the first, third, and the 7th are. I think 4 is fun. There's a weird meta homosexuality thing going on in 2 that's interesting, even though it's a fucking wacky ass terrible script. But yeah, no, I think that this one is this was a good swan song, because Freddy's Dead is a disaster. I think Freddy's Dead is the worst one. So
I couldn't tell you one single thing about that movie, and I know I've seen it, but it's been at least 15 years, and the one time I saw it, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm cool.
You feel like you missed, you start Freddy's Dead and 20 minutes in, you feel like you missed something because there's no plot. It's just things happening. It's terrible. Yeah, it's embarrassing.
It's a bummer because, again, Robert Englund was Freddy for so long, and then there was such a long drought, and then we got Freddy versus Jason, and that movie's fun or whatever, but that's maybe not the movie you wanted, right? The next time Freddy Krueger shows up is in the Mortal Kombat 9 video game as DLC, but it's not Robert Englund. It's freaking the reboot one, and I'm still mad that
mad that it's not Robert in the horror video game. What's it called? The one that's out, you play it.
Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, it's what's his name? Rorschach.
Haley.
Yeah. Which is why
cheaper? No.
Yeah, but all right. Well, yeah. So I'd give it an A. I love this movie. But yeah, I guess before we go, everybody say their goodbyes. We'll start with you, Ryan.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I love talking about horror movies. I'm personally DJ Tony Snark all over the internet. I love to talk about X-Men and comic books and sometimes horror stuff. I'm part of the Fake Nerd podcast. We go live every Sunday. I don't know what we're talking about this week, but we'll find out soon. We're talking about WandaVision every week. Check us out there. That's been a lot of fun. Those videos are doing pretty hot. Check it out.
I'm loving WandaVision, man. I'm loving WandaVision. It's great.
Too.
Paul?
Me too.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Paul's Problems CBSI, and on the Tales from the Flipside YouTube channel when I can make it on Monday nights. But if not, check it out anyway.
Sweet. And I am Jackson, and you can find me right here. Next up for Paul and I is the Freddy Krueger reboot, A Nightmare on Elm Street, from I think 2010. I want to say it's been
2009 or 2010.
Yeah. So that's next. And then the coup de grace of our 2 retrospective review series will be Freddy versus Jason after that. So everybody have a good day or night whenever you're watching this. And thank you for checking us out.